I'd like to share with you today our scripture reading. It's the narrative about Mary. You can find it in the worship bulletin. Feel free to read along with me as I read it. Mary immediately got up and hurried to the hill country in the province of Judah, where her cousins Zacharias and Elizabeth lived. Mary entered their home and greeted Elizabeth. When Elizabeth heard Mary's greeting, she was filled with the Holy Spirit. She exclaimed, "You are blessed, Mary, blessed among all women, and the child you bear is blessed. And blessed am I as well, that the mother of my Lord has come to me. As soon as I heard your voice greet me, my baby leaped for joy within me. How fortunate are you, Mary, for you believed that what the Lord told you would be fulfilled." And Mary said, "My soul magnifies the Lord." What are we made of? That's a rather broad question, I know, but what are we made of? Or another way to look at it is, what makes us us? Now, I know that sometimes that seems like, well, it could be a molecular composition, it could be the physiological, the biological, the psychological, all the logicals that we can measure ourselves by, but I want to go deeper than that. What makes us us? When you really dig deep, what makes us us? And I'd really like to ask Mary that question. Because in this narrative, and I say narrative because I don't think that everything happened exactly the way it was written here. I think there's a lot of leeway, a lot of tradition passed down, but there's a great profound truth in this narrative. And she ends up, did you hear how she ended up? My soul magnifies the Lord. My soul glorifies the Lord. My question is, how could she come to that point? Now, I'm getting ready to jump into some stuff here that I have no idea anything about. It's being pregnant. The best I can do is respond from a second-hand perspective. But I understand, after two babies as daughters and one as a grandchild that I was close enough to, that there's those moments of euphoric celebration. Absolute, those times of total delight. I remember the day that my wife Nancy, we had just finished playing tennis, of all things. She was 4 or 5 months pregnant. And she was waddling over the tennis court quite well. And she said, "You know, I like this pregnancy. I'm playing the best tennis I've ever played." I don't know what that means. But I know there are those moments of celebration and just gratitude. But I also know there are those times that it just beats you down. There are those times when the doubts, the frustrations, the concerns, the anxiety, it raises to a level that, oh, can I just get past this? There's a classic stress management tool that can be filled out. You can find it online if you want. There's 40 different experiences that have been ranked with numbers associated with it. And you can check all the boxes you want to. And at some point, when you check all the boxes of these experiences you've had in the past year or so, and you count up the totals, if a certain amount is higher in a bad way, then you're in stress. If it goes much higher, you're in a whole lot of stress. If you're below that, well, life is life. You know, but pregnancy is number 12 out of 40. I think I would debate that. I think that's probably best case scenario. I have to think that pregnancy probably is maybe in the top 5, depending on what's going on. It could be number 1 at that moment. And in Mary's situation, in the narrative that we share, it had to be off the scale. The narrative that we're told, this was not a good situation. The cultural norms were totally against her. Joseph was considering, let's just set her aside. I'll go on my way. She goes on her way, and good luck. There's so much about this story that indicates that she would have been under incredible stress. And so here she is. She goes to see Elizabeth. She travels. And Elizabeth welcomes her and celebrates with her. But that doesn't take away what was going on. And Mary turns around and says, my soul magnifies the Lord. My soul glorifies the Lord. How did she do that? We're entering into Advent. It's been announced. And our theme is God with us. And each week we'll cover one of the themes up above. Hope, peace, love, joy. So this week we're talking about God with us through hope. And what does that mean? Tiffany did a great job of explaining and describing hope. But hope is not necessarily the process of crossing fingers and wishing for something. It's not finding that rabbit's foot and rubbing it so you'll get good luck. It's not hoping that maybe the weather won't snow on us today. Maybe that our tailgate party will be fun. Hope you can stay. Hoping that maybe the Eagles might dare to score a touchdown today. I know that's science fiction, I know. Hope goes much deeper than that. Hope, by definition, tends to be that it's the anticipation, the expectation, the belief in something that comes into your spirit, your soul. As Tiffany said, it defines you in many ways. It speaks to you in all ways. Hope. But then we back up just that one step about God with us. What does that mean? In our clergy meeting in October, we started our meeting with an interesting question. Where have you seen God lately? Where have you experienced God lately? Where have you felt God lately? Now, I hate to break this to you, but if there would have been some scouts from Hollywood, they would have walked away just shaking their head. Nothing here. No grandiose images of God coming up and maybe raising the Titanic. All these wonderful things that you can make a movie about. All these spectacular scenes. You know what we shared? Around the room, it was stories of people helping people. Of people reaching out to one another. Of the comfort that people gave to others. That the way that we had received comfort and care and compassion from others. It was about people. Helping people. Touching people. Making a difference in their lives. That's where we saw God's presence in our lives. People helping people. Now I know there's already a fly in the ointment, so to speak, that if you look out on our side yard, you see those t-shirts about our protest, if you will, about how these people have been murdered through gun violence. So you can immediately come back and say, well, yeah, but what about when people don't treat people the way we want, the way we need, the way we expect? What about when people don't love one another? That display shows it, doesn't it? Well, my thought was that why hasn't somebody come up with a display of t-shirts showing when people help people? What would that look like? What would it look like if we decided, okay, let's just start. Okay, Lance, for example, you started this counseling center. How many t-shirts would you have out there for every person you have helped? Oh, golly. Tiffany, you went down to Kenya to be in the Wiser School and help lead and teach and love. How many kids did you touch? How many t-shirts would you have out there? Kelly Jo, when you did with the class on white privilege, when you've just gone about and entertained us with your spirit, how many t-shirts would you have out here? Keith, you work with the Peace Center. How many people's minds have you touched in such a positive way? You'd have a gob. That's a technical word, by the way, a gob. You'd have a whole gob of t-shirts out there. Dave, oh my goodness. How many times have you told stories? Have you been that voice of just excitement, of care and loving? Marie, you too. Hey, Marie has the best hug in the world. Okay, how many times she comes and just... Michelle, okay, I'm going to quit. That's it. You know how many t-shirts we could have out there? Benta, I can't stop. Benta, you know how many times your voice of affirmation, of positive energy comes in and the stories that you share and the way you care for your family. Michelle, I'll get back to you. On your sister, on your daughter, how you dropped everything. Helen, how many times have you reached out to people to help them along? The Nancy, Linda show that went out to Arizona. Remember that? How many people? Folks, we need to get a bigger yard. And that's just us. That's just us. Jane, I know you're constantly in prayer for people. You care so much. Bob, what you do in this building is unbelievable. He's always fixing things so that we can be comfortable. Gene, gathering all this material for Ivan's Center. Dave, you came up with this idea about this tailgate party. I gotta quit, don't I? We're already out in the street with all these t-shirts. We need a bigger yard. Don, you've for so many years, you have reached out and gone for the food bank and picked up the food and delivered it. Shannon, how many boxes, how many things did you say you're sending?
1,270.
What an amazing difference. I really got to quit. I could go up and down the road here. I probably should, because each one of you have these stories. Bill Blue, no, I'm going to quit. You know who you are. You know what you've done. And let's go the other way, in fact. How many times have you received love and care from somebody? Start filling out those t-shirts. Every time somebody's reached out to you, every time somebody's said something of positive affirmation to you, every time that somebody has said you are loved, we're going to have a run on t-shirts. Why doesn't somebody come up with the idea of let's fill this yard with t-shirts about how people help people? Now, I know it doesn't grab the headlines. Almost everything I said here, I don't think was ever reported in the news. Because that's what we expect. When you really come down to it, that's what we expect. That's what we anticipate. That is how we relate to each other. It catches us off guard. It takes our breath away in a bad way. Sometimes when something happens bad. Because that's not the way it should and is. It's an aberration. It hurts. It's real. and we're right to fight against it. But shouldn't we also proclaim our hope in God's presence is affirmed by how we reach out to one another? So Mary, in our narrative, she goes to see Elizabeth. As far as I know, she didn't call her, she didn't text her, she didn't email her. She walked in and said, "Liz, I'm here." Now, Elizabeth would have had every right in the world to say, "No, you're not. No, my neighbors know what you are. No. No, you're going to ruin my reputation. No, I don't have time for you. No, go away, go away, go away." No. What did she do? She said, "Come here. Let me wrap my arms around you. Let me celebrate who you are. Let us take this journey together. You are blessed, Mary. And I am blessed by being in your presence." I think I know what made Mary, Mary. And her ability to say at that moment, "My soul magnifies the Lord." Because she had that hope. The hope that God's presence, as felt by people helping people, people loving people, people caring for people, was real. What makes Mary, Mary, is what makes us, us. That we dare to believe in this hope, this expectation, this anticipation, this belief that God's presence, as seen in people loving people, is here, is real. It's who we are. That, I think, is what makes us.